Another month, another candle. And today we're going to talk about the month of November. However, I may have been wrong. In my last video, I made a prediction that we're going to see a rally after the election. I also predicted that we're going to see a dump somewhere between Q1 and Q3 of 2021. I'm going to show you evidence in the charts that shows that a dump is near and it's closer than we think. It's a lot closer than we think, and I'm excited to talk to you about it today, coming up after the intro. What's up, guys? This is JC, and welcome to the Wealth Engineering channel. The more you pay attention to, the more aware you become. And in this channel, we pay attention to stocks, crypto, real estate, and business to find the best place to grow your portfolio. If this is something that interests you, make sure you go bullish on the like button, subscribe, and click that bell. The first Sunday of every month, we do a monthly forecast. Sorry about that. I'm late on the monthly forecast for this month. And every Sunday after that, we follow up on this prediction to see if we are on or off target. We had a lot of actions in the stock and the crypto market last month, and we're heading towards one of the most interesting time in the next 4 years. So we have a lot to talk about. You came here for the truth. Let's just dive deep into it. So I want to start with the S&P 500, and I want to go back to 2 years ago. So basically, we can see a clear uptrend, and by that I mean we can see a high, higher high, higher high, and higher high. So that's a clearly uptrend. But there's something weird's been happening as well. We've been also seeing a lower trend, but something's weird's been happening also. Look at that. We've been seeing a low, higher lows, and then a higher low, which forms this weird pattern where we can see something like this, kind of like a megaphone pattern where it's going both high and low at the same time. This is something that is more clear when you look at the RSI. The RSI is showing a bearish divergence. And usually when a bearish divergence happens, the price eventually has to follow what the indicators is showing. And the indicator is clearly showing a bearish divergence, and eventually we may visit the 50 or if not the oversold area. But in today's video, I wanted to show you something, and to show you that, we're going to turn off the RSI, we're going to talk to MACD, the ADX for this month, and we're going to look at this one right here. This is the ash ribbon, and it's an indicator that is mostly used to know when is a good time to buy. Now, the interesting thing about this indicator is if you look at all the red zones, or whenever we have a gray area right here, this is the precursor to a buy signal. All right. Now, if we put it in a weekly, I can show you easier. Now, the gray and the red is the precursor to the buy zone, right? And usually when you have a good buy, it's because it's been followed by a dip. A dip in the market, a dip in the price creates a point where it's a good entry for a buy, right? This indicator does not tell you when to sell, only when to buy. However, it's a good indicator to keep an eye on because it can also predict when a dip is going to happen. And look at this example again. We had a gray area right here, and then we had a good buy scenario right here, but the dip had already happened. It does not always announce a dip in the market. For example, in a scenario like this, we had the gray and the red zone right here, and the price did not go lower, and we had a perfect buy signal before it started going up again. So it's not 100% accurate, but what happened is eventually this signal will trigger a good buy, and whether we are in a good buy on an uptrend or we're in a good buy because the price dipped, it is going to be interesting to see. However, what I wanted to show you, it was this weird pattern right here. Based on this pattern, what we've seen is we have high, low, high, low, high. So the high's been there for a while, and maybe we're starting to see the lower here. And if the low happens exactly by following this pattern, we may at the very least see a price drop around this area right here, or even a wick that touches this orange line right here, just like we see here. So we might very well see this. If we're looking at the last 6 years, the price never actually reached this level right here. So this is also showing a level of overvalued area that is unprecedented, and this is what this indicator is showing. And right now we're having a nice clear top. Maybe we have reached the top of this uptrend. We don't know. So this is going to be interesting to see as well on a long term. Do we create a high which is higher than this? That's going to be interesting to see. So usually we have a buy signal and the price starts to go up. Then it creates double. So in scenario like this, when you can have double top, but it still goes up as well. And the last 10 years, to say the least, the market has been going nothing but up. But maybe we're heading towards a scenario where the market is going to be down for a long period of time. And right now we're heading towards a red zone area right here. And this is zone we can see better in a daily chart. Right here. This is a more rudimentary, but it happened. We were having a cross with this area right here. The cross happens before, and usually when the cross happens, we create areas that are triggering some buy signals or some dip, right? We had a cross happen right a couple days ago, all right, and we're starting to create some momentum on the downside. So this signal right here, based for the month of November, it's showing an interesting pattern because it's showing that in the month of November, we're most likely going to see this continuation of this pattern unless the election change this pattern entirely. So that's going to be interesting to see. Usually we don't see fake outs in this pattern, but we don't, it doesn't necessarily means there will be a dip. So that's the interesting part in this pattern. So that's going to be interesting. And it's the same, this pattern triggers a buy in all markets. That means whether we're talking about crypto, gold, whether we're talking about a stock market, the same gray zone right here is triggered in all of the markets. So let's look at the other index to see if we can pick up anything else. For the NASDAQ, it's the same pattern, bearish divergence as well. While we have the price here, we may very well see a double top, and this is also a bearish pattern. The ADX is showing a loss of momentum and strength. So the strength is getting lower, pointing down. So that may very well be continuing for the month of November. DXDY, remember this is the indicator that we look at to know if it goes down, it's good for gold, good for crypto, and if it goes up, it's bad for gold, bad for crypto, and sometimes bad for the stock market as well. Now look at that. Look at that right here. We're on a weekly chart and we have seen a cross. All right. Momentum is picking up. It's still on the undervalued area, but it's pointing up. So if we have 4 more weeks of it going up, that means that can symbolize an uptrend for the dollar, which is down, which is bad for gold, bad for crypto. But so far, the price have been bouncing in this continuation pattern, and we may see more of that in November as well. So the decision for the DXY is either we challenge this price and break it and go down lower, or we break this and start a new uptrend. So that's we need more data to know, to validate this trend. If we evaluate this trend on a weekly, we're still below 50 on a weekly chart for the DXY. So technically that's bearish, but also you can see that there is some momentum that's been starting and it's been going higher over time. All right. So that's an important to see as well. So just like the MACD, the RSI is also building up momentum. So maybe we're going to see more how this develops for the month of November, but that's going to be interesting to see. Canadian dollar. So the Canadian dollar, if US dollar goes up, Canadian dollar go down. If US dollar goes down, Canadian dollar goes up. All right. So if right here we're heading towards a decision point because since March we've been having an uptrend, all right? But lately we noticed that we had a high and we had a lower high. So we're starting on a shorter term area, we're starting a low trend. If this breaks the current triangle and creates a lower low and a lower high, then we officially will be on a low trend, which means the US dollar would be going up, the Canadian dollar would be going down, and that could be also very bad for the stock market and crypto and gold. So we don't know. This is going to be interesting. Let's see what the indicator says. The indicators on the weekly chart, it's still bullish because it's above 50, but it's you can look at that. You don't even have to look at the MACD. Just look at the RSI. Look at the RSI. It's been high, lower high, lower high. It's kind of like a ball bouncing, and then it's losing momentum, and then it's gonna bounce and it's gonna rest on this line until it breaks it. Or a sheep sink, right? That's what the RSI is saying right now. So this does not inspire confidence for bullish, right? And if the Canadian dollar goes down, that means the DXY is going up. And the MACD is showing it very clearly. A cross about to happen, a curve heading towards downward, momentum starting to build on the downside. So this is really starting to look bearish. Look at that on the weekly chart, the ADX, ADY. Look at the gap, how close they are. This is very bullish. Look at also the strength line is pointing down, and it's about to go even lower. So this is we might see a cross anytime because look at this. There is a trend higher. This is a high, higher high. If we form a higher high, and if this continue to form a lower low, that will create a cross, and that will be very bearish for the Canadian dollar, which means if you're a forex trader, you might want to pay attention to this. Crude oil. Lately, crude oil has been stuck in a continuation pattern. November, we have seen in October where the price wanted to challenge this area. We even had some price action lower this, but this is not enough. This is still shown in the continuation pattern. It's basically the price trying to decide the perfect resistance slash support, something that we might put like this. And if we put it like this, it still look like a continuation pattern. So this is nothing new. Maybe the election will play a factor because crude oil and politics, they're very intertwined. So maybe after the election, we might see a clear direction. And the direction is clear. It's either we break this line officially and start challenging this line right here, or we break this one and we start challenging this upside. We need more data to validate this. But if the entire stock market goes down, it's most likely going low like this as well. And based on the ash ribbon, it's something that can take maybe a month or two. Like, look at this. Last time we had this, it was in November. Like, this was in November, all right? And they took like a month before it triggers a buy. This was in March. It took 2 months before it triggers a buy. So we might see something like this where it triggers a buy a month in December or maybe in January. We might see something like this. But usually it triggers a buy because there is a dip in the market. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens after the elections, where the market is heading, especially for the month of November. Gold is mostly going sideways, but it's starting to show some trend on the downside. It's something that you can see on the RSI. It's trying to fight. It's starting to fight to beat this zone right here. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Gold is still above 50. So over the long term, we're still bullish. But the election might affect this because if the entire market stops dumping, then the gold is going up. But if the stock market goes up, then gold is going down. So if we see this continuation pattern happens, I believe they're waiting to see where what the market is doing. The market is very indecisive, and gold doesn't like indecisiveness. It likes clear answer to know where to go. If the market is crashing, that's pretty clear enough. Look, and for Bitcoin, we had a very good month for Bitcoin. I made a video about that, about the month. That what we're going to see is we need to see a challenge and break above this 14,000. We're almost at the oversold area on the weekly chart, which is a very significant um, threshold. Momentum is building on a MACD on a weekly, so that's bullish. So it still has some room to grow. But even here we're having a trigger as well on the ash ribbons. So usually if this happens, it's possible that we can see a dip in the market. And if we see a dip, we might very well be at the very least touching this orange line right here around 11,000. Or if we close below this and start building a pattern on the downside, then we will be back in this triangle again. So where it's going to be very interesting to see what will happen. But so far, Bitcoin is looking very bullish because we had an amazing month for Bitcoin. And the rule of the game is follow the trend until the end. And right now, the trend is certainly bullish. And this is one of the most bullish candle we had for the year. So we'll wait to see what happens. And if Bitcoin wants to make a move, November, and maybe December, it has 2 months to close above this $14,000. If it closed the year above 14,000, that would be the most bullish thing that happened to Bitcoin since 2016. If we do not close above 14, we're still bullish as long as we stay above this orange line right here. So this is how it looks like. We're going to see how it develops over time. Every day that it happens, that it closes above this orange line, it's very bullish for Bitcoin. And right now, Bitcoin is really looking solid. We'll wait and see. It's right now it's stuck in a continuation pattern, but that is very healthy for Bitcoin because the only time that it has been interacting around this price was in 2019, in 2017, and not many days at all. So the more days that we can have around these price actions, the better it is for Bitcoin. Lastly, I want to talk about XRP. The last couple weeks, we've been following XRP, and it's been stuck in this triangle where it was forced to make a decision maybe sometime here. But we have noticed something where it actually broke this triangle right here. Now, if we look at the weekly chart, it's actually a lot easier to see. On the weekly chart, we had a close right here for the week, but the opening started to go lower. Now, two things can happen. For the month of November, we might see a push back up, and if the candle close above this, and then it will simply be a dip and still riding along. We're still good for 30 cents XRP. However, let's say something happened in the election and there was a dump in the market and the weekly candle closed below this orange line, then we would be officially out of this pattern and we would be maybe heading towards 20 cents, even 17 cents. So that's going to be very interesting. But at the same time, that could also be a very good buying signal for XRP. That could also be a very good buy entry point for XRP. If you had your money stashed waiting for an entry to the market, maybe this symbol can help you figure out when is the good time to get in. But so far, it's looking like the triangle is broken. And we'll wait to see how the week ends. We're going to have more to talk about that next week. So with that said, that was my monthly forecast and my monthly review for the month of November. Basically, what it means is we mostly need to see what's going to happen in the election. The election is happening on Wednesday. We need to see more of that, how the market is going to react. And after that, we're going to have a clearer direction where the market is going. I am not a financial advisor, and this is not a financial advice. However, if you were my friend, I would say stay away from the market because it's very volatile. It's better to know exactly where the market is going. And once you know, you move along with the trend versus making a huge bet and then potentially lose on that bet. Me, I'm staying away. I am staying away, but at the very same time, the next day I'm gonna look at the market and crypto market to see how it reacts, and then the next day I'll observe what happens on the stock market, and I'll use my decision based on that to go at the back end. So with that said, we're gonna talk about it next week. We're gonna have a lot more data to discuss too. Next week, we're going to have an answer about the election. We might even have civil unrest if Trump wins. We don't know, but there is a lot to discuss. And next week, we're going to have more data. So let's talk about that next week. So we'll talk on the next video.